So, Toby, from my understanding, you work in insurance, right?
I do.
And how did you get into that?
Man, it's so funny. We kind of have a joke in the insurance world that nobody had their My First Broker's lunchbox in third grade. I mean, nobody in the industry, I mean, some people, it's legacy, their parents did it or whatever, but almost everyone backed into it inadvertently. And that's true for me too. When I was in college, I played soccer, and over the summers, I would coach these goalkeeper camps that were often out of town. So I would spend a lot of time out of town. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, she was, at some point kind of like, man, every summer you're gone for large swaths of it. It'd be good to see each other more often, et cetera, et cetera. And she was like, my mom is starting her own insurance consulting firm and could use a little young energy just to get in, get on the phones, help out, cheap labor, frankly, at the time, right? You don't have to pay whatever I was, a 19, 20-year-old with nothing on his resume, too much money. So she was like, look, I know I always wanted to play professional soccer, but my trajectory sort of peaked out in college. Like that was like pretty clear as high of a level as I was going to go. So I needed to have some more thoughts professionally about what I intended to do. And so in the insurance brokering world, I mean, you're basically a business consultant. So your clients sometimes, and in this case will really vary different industries. So you get insight into a machine shop and a credit union and a nonprofit and really exposure to lots of different companies. Mm-hmm. So she was basically like, look, you get a little business on your resume, you get exposure to lots of different companies, and we'll see if you like it. There's a lot of young, fun folks that are, maybe insurance company reps that, they're sales reps for, Cigna or, Aetna or whoever. And, I'll set you up with some lunches with those people, and you can kind of grab a happy hour here and there and just kind of meet different folks and kind of figure out what you want to do business-wise. And I ended up just staying at the consulting firm and really liking that aspects.
And now do you have your own consulting firm, or are you still at this consulting firm that you started at?
Yeah, no, man, I'm at the same place I've been at. It's 13 years. I'm now the executive vice president of the whole organization. And we have a sister company we started about 5 years ago that I'm the CEO of. So I've got, my feet in a couple different places. I've done, lots and lots of speaking engagements, podcasts, those sorts of things over the time to kind of build up my name. But no, my home is still that same consulting firm. Happily.
Wow. That's awesome. It sounds like you found a good job, a good fit for you.
Yeah, I'm so weird. It's like, the girl I was dating at 17, I married. The first job I got, I'm still at, 13 years later. I think the only reason I played soccer all the way through to college is that was just the first sport. Like the season happened to start, and my mom, a couple months later, she was like, do you want to do baseball? Or I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I'll just keep doing this. So, I kind of find my home and just try to get better and better at it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so, for those people watching who don't know what an insurance broker does, can you explain to us, what is your day-to-day like?
Yeah, totally, man. So in the same way that a company would have, let's say, like a CPA to help them with their taxes, or some version of an attorney to help them, with some law issues, most organizations hire outside consultants for their insurance needs. So, we have a client, company ABC, and they might have a few hundred or a few thousand employees. And in the name of recruitment and retention, they want to have an employee benefits package. They want to have medical insurance they offer the employees, dental insurance, vision insurance, whatever, right? But they, do what they do best, and they need some consulting on which medical insurance, the PPO, the HMO, which company, Anthem Blue Cross, Cigna, Aetna. So what we do is we gather all of the information we need to get them quotes for all the different carriers. So, basically census data information. And then we'll submit that to the underwriters of the various insurance companies. We will get back all of their bids, go through them for, what kind of makes sense for the client based on sort of what they said they kind of need and want, build into a proposal. And then, in the old days, we would sit in a room, but I think now we're doing Zoom calls. But, you sit around a table and open up the presentation and say, look, within your budget, here's a plan that's got, the best copays possible, the best deductibles possible, great network of doctors, et cetera. We kind of consult as they package together their employee benefits platform for the employees, and then we help with the logistics of rolling that out. So now that we've made this decision that this is the medical insurance that such and such company offers its employees, how do we, promulgate the message? Are we going to do meetings? Are we going to do postcards? Are we going to do brochures? Are we going to do flyers? Are we going to do webinars? How are we going to disseminate all this information? And then how are we going to get the employees' elections back? Is this guy adding a spouse or a baby? Is he taking the HMO or the PPO? How do we get back their applications? And then how do we, get all that data over to the insurance company so that everyone gets loaded into the system?
Wow. It sounds like you guys do a very important role because you're like that middleman that really has value. People always talk smack about middleman, because they don't add value. But I worked at a Chinese company that didn't know anything about insurance, right? And I had to I artificially become the HR and help them with that stuff, even though I was just a manager, managing employees. But somehow I had to help these people, these Chinese people that knew nothing about insurance.
Yeah.
And
I think
we should have hired you. We should have hired you.
You should have. It really is a specialized field of making sure. For most companies, behind payroll and maybe one or two things, their insurance cost is a top 2 or 3 budget item. We have companies spending $9, $10, $20 million on an annual basis on their insurance costs. So you don't spend that much money without making sure you have someone who it's their only job is to make sure, is there something better? Is there something less expensive? And then, projection wise, companies, they wouldn't necessarily have the actuarial and underwriting expertise to say, hey, look, if we changed a copay or a deductible or something more nuanced in the plan, what would we expect the claims now to look like? Is it going to be a $100,000 annual difference in expected claims, a $500,000 annual difference in expected claims? So it's difficult. And then, plus once we're hired on, we're not the insurance company. So we get to be kind of lobbyists for the employees where it's like, hey, this guy's trying to get this surgery done and the, carrier's giving them some pushback. And, we work for the client, we work for the employees. So we get to kind of be their little insurance Sherpas and put an arm around their shoulder and help them navigate if they were billed wrong or, denied a claim or something like that.
So you guys are usually helping employees. Do you ever work with employers too? Is it kind of both ways or mostly helping employees?
Our firm is, one that focuses exclusively on employers and large businesses. As a value add for having our firm be the consultant on the insurance products, we have a customer service arm that the employees of that company are able to call into if they run into claims issues.
That's so interesting. Yeah, this is honestly, this stuff is all foreign to me. That's why I'm asking such basic questions because, I don't companies that I've worked for, right? It seems like we would deal directly with insurance or something. So it's so interesting that you guys provide this service where employees who are oh, I have to deal with my insurance. No, I could contact Toby. I could contact Toby Kennedy. They'll help me, navigate it better. That's so cool.
Most companies do have an insurance consultant, almost all of them, frankly. And so whether or not you're aware of it at an employee level may be different. But your CFO or your, chief HR folks, they would be engaging with some version of me or my firm or competitor.
That's so interesting, man. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
For people who want to, let's say, work for the insurance field, what are some advice you have for them?
Yeah, I would say that, first of all, it's a great industry. It's provided a wonderful life for me and my family thus far. And there's a couple things you need to know is that, first of all, there's 2 really different sides of insurance. There's this employee-facing stuff, so all the medical, dental, vision I was talking about. And then there's the asset type stuff, which in the industry they would call property and casualty or property and liability. So workers' comp, buildings, liability, those types of insurances. So, you oftentimes people pick one lane or the other, and then from there on both sides of the house, you've got 2 sides of the fence. Or do you want to be on the insurance company side, so sort of the supplier working for, again, Cigna or Aetna or whatever, or on the consulting side where your client would be ABC company, for example, right? So on the carrier side, they're kind of selling to the consultants and the brokers. They're saying, hey, we bid on such and such client of yours. Are we competitive? Do we need to revise our bid? Do we think are we going to get your recommendation? So they're working with the consultants to say, who is your client? What does it look like? And what do I need to do with my underwriter, right? So what I would tell people getting into insurance is, you've got both the benefit side and the property casualty side. And in both of those worlds, you've got the insurers and you've got the kind of consultants that deal directly with clients. So, figuring out what makes sense for you and, what you want to kind of build on from there.
I see. So you mentioned, you got your mother company and you're also the CEO of kind of like a offshoot company. How did that happen?
Yeah. So, healthcare reform passed, March 23rd, 2010. And a lot of things sort of changed in our industry, not the least of which was we saw an opportunity for individual health insurance, right? So now individual plans were guaranteed issue, whereas prior to that, you had to be underwritten as an individual. I mean, that might sound crazy to people, and if they view this, in the future, it's going to sound really crazy. But people used to have to answer health questions, and if the insurance company didn't like them, they really couldn't get the same insurance.
Could reject them basically.
Yeah, man. So that was the strength of group plans at the time, and COBRA insurance and all those sorts of things. But once the individual market became guaranteed issue, we sort of looked at a lot of the folks out there that might want to decouple their health insurance relationship from their employer, and they might want to buy, health insurance on their own. So we launched a sister company to focus on individuals and even small businesses, real kind of one-off Main Street mom pop type stuff. Because our consulting firm is much more focused on large employers, multi-state, international, even, like I said, a few hundred to several thousand employees. So it's a totally different consultation when you're literally dealing with one dude that wants to buy from Covered California or, some hotel conglomerate that owns 50 hotels across the world.
It sounds like when I was looking to purchase my individual insurance, because I'm self-employed too, right? I should have consulted you. I wish Rob told me about you before because I was so lost. I was like, well, before when I was employed by a company, I used Kaiser. Let's just look at Kaiser's individual plans. And I went that direction and, it worked out. I mean, Kaiser's okay, but I do pay a fortune out of pocket to get the insurance. And maybe if I contacted you, I might have gotten more information, gotten more clarity to this whole process. So now I know that that's cool that like you help individuals try to navigate this crazy complex world of individual insurance.
Yeah, our company does. I don't spend too terribly much time on the phone with individuals, but any friend of Rob's is a friend of mine. So I certainly would have.
And I think just a natural disclaimer for everyone watching, we're just having a general conversation. This is not to be construed as kind of like specific consulting advice or legal advice or anything. I just want to make that clear. I like to throw that out there, and I'll put that in the description and pinned comments too. We're just having a general kind of discussion.
Right.
Yeah. And so, that being said, for people, let's say, who potentially are on the path to want to like have their own insurance, what are some like general guidelines, some general pieces of advice you give them, so they don't be like me, like, I don't know what to do. Oh, let's call Kaiser. And Kaiser, the lady was like, oh yeah, this plan's good for you, and I'm like, okay, all right. What are some other things they could do?
Familiarize yourself with a few of the most prominent plan features. So for example, everyone's familiar with premium, right? That's the amount you pay every month just for the right to have, the card in your wallet. Basically, it's not utilization based. It's fixed monthly cost. So, figure out a premium range that is acceptable to you and figure out if you qualify for any, subsidies. There's very state by state, but if you can get subsidization, perhaps that would be helpful for you. And then things like your out-of-pocket maximum are really important. I think that people need to understand that term, which is the most you would have to pay in a given calendar year if you really blew up. So when I look at a plan, I'm like, all right, worst case scenario, if I really blew up, this plan's out-of-pocket maximum is $4,000 and this one's $9,000. Okay, what am I expecting this year? Well, my wife's pregnant. Well, you might hit that number. So maybe you buy up to a little bit better of a plan because the out-of-pocket maximum is so much lower, right? Things like the network. So, do you have a specific doctor you really want to see or a hospital you really want access to? And do they participate in this plan or not? Or do you don't even care? And if you don't even care, then just making sure that you figure out, with this plan, who are the providers that the plan would be steering me to, and you make sure you see those guys. Because, you go out of network, it's all costly because now the insurance company doesn't have a contract with that doctor and they didn't want you to see them. They prefer you see the other guy, so they're not going to pay as much of the bill. So I would, try to negotiate or not really traverse those kind of angles. Most importantly, premium, out-of-pocket max, network, and then, little stuff that's everyone knows, office visit copays and some of those things,
Part of why insurance, especially medical insurance, is so confusing is because of those terms. Like, why couldn't they name it a more the less complicated thing? Everyone knows what a copay is, but even a deductible versus an out-of-pocket maximum and stuff like that. I remember when I was first looking at plans, I was confused. I'm like, wait. So, okay, well, I guess to a certain point, and then they cover how much. Oh, it was so confusing. Yeah.
I always kind of talk people through a timeline of their expenses. So, all right, there's going to be a couple milestones you might hit. On day one, $0, you're responsible for 100% of whatever the doctor charges, right? And at some point, you will hit your deductible. And at that point, the insurance company will start splitting the rest of your bills with you, maybe 80-20 or whatever. They pay 80 and you pay 20. If you keep having bills, your little 20% add up and up and up and up. And at a certain point, you might hit your out-of-pocket maximum. Then they pay for everything after that. So you've kind of got your pre-deductible costs, the cost between the deductible and the out-of-pocket maximum, and then after the out-of-pocket maximum.
That shows how awesome you are. You explained it better than any website. Websites can't even explain it that well. That's the clearest I've ever heard it. Your premium that gets you the plan, you go into the doctor, usually there's a copay. Top of that, there's how much you're expected to pay 100%, and then you hit a certain point. Then there's a deductible where you split the cost with the insurance, and then you hit a certain point. After that, that's out-of-pocket maximum, and the insurance company covers it 100%. You just explained it to me.
There you go. Now you got to layer on the nuance of things that do and don't apply to the deductible, right? So sometimes, your prescriptions or whatever, they're not going to apply to the deductible. That's just a flat, $10 a month or whatever it is. Yeah. So they do have multiple different ways that participants are billed depending upon, was it an ER visit? Did you fill a prescription? Did you go to an urgent care facility? Are we doing copays, deductibles, et cetera? So it does get really, really confusing. And I don't know, maybe it's just to keep people like me employed. I don't know. Probably.
It's probably one, to keep people like you employed, and two, to keep people like me paying for plans that probably they don't need, right?
Well, that's why I enjoyed being on the consulting side versus the carrier side, because I do sort of feel like my main role is to tell people, look, I didn't design the system, but I'll sure as hell help you navigate it. So let's talk and let's do as good as we can together.
Yeah. And it's interesting. We talked about urgent care. One of the things I did right with my plan is that if I just go visit urgent care, just a $40 copay and everything's taken care of. So that was good. I pay a lot. My premium every month's more than $300. So I am paying a lot, but at least I was glad I got that plan, because times when you're panicking, all you want to worry about is just get care. And that's when you pay that $40, okay, if they need to do a cash in, they need to do whatever, I don't have to pay more.
Right. Yeah. And Kaiser can be somewhat streamlined for members. So it's an HMO style product. So they give you referrals. They tell you who to see. As long as you're going to a Kaiser facility, you're not really going to wade out of network. So there's the aspects like that make it a little bit.
And the company I was working for before, they had it's pretty funny. So they started with Blue Shield, and I guess their plan with Blue Shield, again, because I don't know, they never consulted an insurance broker like you guys. So they did Blue Shield for a few months, and then they're like, oh, wait a minute, this doesn't cover couples. It doesn't cover families. Oh no. And then they switched to Kaiser. And I was just laughing now thinking about when companies try to do it themselves without, help, and that they both the individual and the, company, they just stumble around.
Yeah. I mean, listen, people represent themselves as their own attorney in court sometimes too,
True.
People turn down expert advice all over the map. So.
And sometimes it works, but a lot of times it's oh, I really shouldn't have done it.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Toby, so if they're a company or they're an individual or whatever, if they want to get in touch with you, how do they find your company? What do they search online?
Yeah, so our firm is named Montage Insurance. You go to montageinsurance.com. I'm pretty sure my phone number and email address is somewhere on there. And if not, you can just, kind of call in and ask for me. I'm always happy to help. The sister company is Simpolicy, Simpolicy, like a simple policy.
Oh, simple. I like that.
Yep. So those are the two companies. So individuals and small businesses on the Simpolicy side, large groups on the Montage side, and my contacts out there.
And also, I just want to say, I'll put the links and everything in the description and pinned comments, but very good website design. Montage Insurance especially has a really cool website design. So
yeah,
good job on that.
Yeah.
Wow. Also, guys, if you guys were confused about that picture you guys saw, that's the first part of it's on Fight Commentary Breakdown. So for those of you who follow Jerry Learns Business, you probably follow Fight Commentary Breakdowns. But if you stumbled on this channel without Fight Commentary Breakdowns, even more power to you. You can see the first part of the talk, how I know Toby, on Fight Commentary Breakdowns. So now we've successfully cross-promoted.
Love it, man. Good deal.
Exactly. Toby, when this lockdown is over, what are your plans next with like your whole insurance type of field? Is your company going to try to expand to other areas? Well, tell me more about that.
Sure. Yeah. We probably more of the same. We've got a good thing going. We have a really nice service model. We are proponents of some of the Jim Collins teachings. So and some of his, he's got Good to Great, Great by Choice, some of those types of books, and in one of them, he talks about his 20-mile march, which is sort of a controlled growth, which we've been, really doing. So we've had kind of low double-digit annual growth year in and year out that we're sort of intentionally kind of curbing. So, in good times, you don't want to grow too fast. If you take on too many accounts, you need hands on deck to service those guys. And are you just looking for a warm body? Are you just looking for a belly button? Are you looking for a really great candidate? So we kind of grow in a controlled way. I think for the last 5 years, we've been on the LA Business Journal's Best Places to Work. 2017, we're the #1 best place to work. So we are, a bit of a destination in the insurance industry. So we do often find great candidates, but there's only so much talent out there, right? So we've been kind of growing in a controlled manner, and we're on our 20-mile march, and we're going to keep going. We're going to put our flag out there.
Yeah. From my understanding, Toby, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of the Fortune 500 companies deal with insurance. So it seems like, the trajectory of most companies, if they're fair, honest insurance company, is that they'll keep growing. And it sounds like that's what your company's doing. It's just going to keep growing.
Your lips to God's ears.
Exactly. All right, guys. So this was Toby Kennedy. If you want to see the first part of the talk, go on Fight Commentary Breakdowns. And Toby, let's bring you back when this whole madness dies down. I would love to sit down with you in person, and we can talk more depending on what type of questions we get in the comment section, etc. And of course, I would love to learn some jiu-jitsu from you too. So a lot of cool kind of things to bring you on in the future.
Sure, man. Let's crack a beer and let's throw a chokehold out there.
Definitely. Cool. So for everyone watching, leave your comments for Toby. Check out the links. Go watch the first part of the talk where we talk more martial arts, and we'll bring Toby back to answer your questions in the future. So everyone watching, talk to you next time. Jerry Learns Business.